Drew Olnoff from TechCrunch. I'm here with Chamath Palihapitiya, founder of Social Capital, early Facebook employee, owner of the Golden State Warriors and many other things. You gave a talk here with Lena a little bit ago, and I'd like to dive deeper into one of the things you said, which was we should be a little bit ashamed of ourselves for lack of innovation.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of frustration is just like, for every interesting thing that I see 10 things which I just think is like, what is the point? This is like the nth derivative of something that was stupid even 10 years ago. And so why are we revisiting this thing now?
Right.
And so at the same time, I just find these other people who are just like super frustrated because they're trying to do crazy, big, ambitious things. And, I think part of the problem is like, venture is now like a business, and when people were doing it, it was people who had been successful operationally and who kind of felt like they were part of progress, and so they had a responsibility to kind of create progress for everybody else. And I feel that sense of obligation, but I think some of it has been replaced by business heads and people with degrees who are just trying to like gunsling capital like it's some asset management exercise. And the problem is, as a result, you take a lot less risk, and as a result, you have a lot less progress.
Right. So you think that the rehashing of some of the things that have already been done is because money's flowing there, because it's what people know, what investors know.
Yeah, and so things get institutionalized. So now it's not about like, let's find the one or two really, really crazy big people who are super frustrated with the state of the world. It's more about how do I create a system so that I can have people churn through this mill.
Right.
Let me start up an incubator. Let me get 90 people. Let me, but then at the end of it, what you have is just a lot of, acquisition fodder.
Sure.
And a lot of kids who otherwise could have matured for a few years working at an interesting company and then gone to do something really big, who unfortunately, skirt that process, go work on some crappy middle-of-the-range idea, get acqui-hired for a few $1 million, and then just kind of, get lobotomized and never do anything interesting afterwards.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of brutal.
And it's a cycle.
It's really brutal.
So is it increasingly difficult to find those big ideas, to find those?
It's increasingly difficult to make sure that you are out of the kind of like bubble of the valley so that you meet these folks, because these people exist. Yeah. But what's interesting is like they're actually increasing more numbers outside of Silicon Valley than within Silicon Valley. Because within Silicon Valley, all they're doing is just chasing the next interesting thing that they think is going to get funded.
And they're all talking to each other.
And they're all talking to each other. And so like, now we're in this like big, sort of like stupid, idiotic bubble of like all the instant messaging apps getting refunded.
Yeah.
I ran the largest instant messaging business in 2003.
Right.
It is 2013, okay? And what I can tell you is super, super hard to make money. There is no winner-take-all market. It's a highly fragmented market. And so the best thing you're going to do is acquisition fodder. But the problem is you attract so much attention. More money will go into messaging startups than will go into like, crazy ideas to cure cancer, right?
Right.
I mean, really?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to watch. Now, do you worry because so many people, they go for like these, let's make a photo sharing app. Do you worry that a lot of these big ideas get lost because they tried, didn't get funded?
Well, this is what's crazy. I think in part people do that stuff because now it's easier to be technical. To learn how to code, and now you're like, let me hack something. And my point is, look, I actually think it's just as easy to hack something in a really substantive space as it is in the photo space. And you're just as likely to fail. So if you're going to do something, then I would say you're probably better off taking the road less traveled right now because there's more white space. And whenever there's white space, there's a better chance of getting lucky. And I think what people forget is a lot of this stuff is a combination of some skill and a lot of luck and a lot of timing.
So is it time to go back to like the notebooks people carry around and look for some of those big ideas that they might have just
I love that, by the way.
Jumped away.
I love that idea. Like a lot of the time what I do is like, I use my iPhone, but I write down ideas all the time. And a lot of the time what I do is like when I meet folks that I think are interesting but doing something that is just not up to their potential, I'm actually like, look, here's my ideas. Take one of these. And in fact, like I've actually funded a couple folks who actually just threw their startup away, and they own these ideas now to a degree that was otherwise not possible, and it's really successful. It's their thing. And so I have no intellectual ownership over it. I don't care.
They were able to execute on it.
And the fact is now they're actually successful where I'm just like, this is so great. It's their thing. They love it. They believe in it now more than I do. And now I can just fire capital. And like, what's the worst thing that happens?
Exactly. Exactly. The worst thing that would happen is it doesn't get tried at all. That's the worst part.
That's the worst part.
So about trying, you said something else. Everyone should learn how to code.
Everyone.
And
Every single person.
You think it's something it should be taught in elementary school, like
know,
very early?
10
It's a
years,
language.
So when I was when I was in college, I was a double E, and so my sort of technical training was silicon device physics all the way up.
Right.
And I spent a bunch of time learning to code, but it was really gnarly at the time.
Sure.
Java when it first came out was just kind of really crappy, and learning C++ at the time really crappy.
Right.
These are difficult, inelegant languages, quite honestly.
Right.
But now you're in a world where things are so well abstracted that coding is the equivalent of writing pseudocode.
Sure.
And everybody can write pseudocode. We do it all the time in Twitter anyways.
Right.
It's not English.
Right.
It's
No,
like
no,
some
no.
random,
Exactly.
combination of, things that are supposed to be English, and it translates into meaning. Well, that's what coding is today. And so I think now we're at a point where things are so well abstracted, everyone can learn it. And to your point, which is a great one, it is like the third or second language that everyone should know. Sure. English, at least in America, English, Spanish, and probably like JS or Ruby or something.
It doesn't hurt, is what you're saying.
I actually think it's actually, it's necessary.
It's necessary.
It's not optional anymore.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for being here at Disrupt. It was great having you.
Thanks, bro.